Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day on this beautiful day in Boston. So last week there was a concert, the Coldplay concert in Gillette Stadium, and the cameras focused in on a couple that were having an illicit relationship. At first they didn't know why, maybe they were shy, but then of course the story broke. The CEO of this company was having an affair with someone that worked for him. They were both married, both had children, and it spread like wildfire. And it was all over the news, and there's memes galore all over social media of everyone that wants to and is interested in shaming someone else. And it's interesting because what this couple did is inexcusable on every level. It's inexcusable to their spouses, it's inexcusable to their children, it's inexcusable to the moral code of the company. There is no excuse for what they did. But that doesn't give anyone the right to glee and publicly shame them. Because after all, first of all, you're hurting their spouses who did nothing wrong. You're hurting their children, their families. But most importantly, why would you find joy and glee in the failure and the falling of someone else? What they did is horrific and terrible. And of course, the company has to do what the company has to do. But why this constant shaming? You see, the Torah says, if you insult your fellow in public, you have no portion in the world to come. In fact, Moses, who's beginning his final journey, before he passes and begins Deuteronomy next week, this week he speaks about all the journeys the Jewish people took, and next week he begins the repetition of the Torah, and he mentions all these places, names of places that don't actually take place. And the rabbis say, what does it mean? Tofel, V'di, Zahav. Are these names of places? We don't find them. And the rabbis say that Moses wanted to rebuke the Jewish people, but he didn't want to insult them. So the names of the places were really occurrences that happened in those places where the Jewish people failed God. And therefore Moses reminds them without saying, oh, you did this and this. And that's an important lesson we learn from the Torah about how you deal with people. But there's another important lesson here. You see, Pirkei Avot tells us a person should always be mindful that there's an ayin roya. There's an eye that sees us. Oizen shamas, there's an ear that always hears. B'chol dvarecha b'sefer nechtavim, and all your deeds are recorded. Now the rabbi said this nearly 2,000 years ago. Then no one could fathom, what does he mean? Of course they meant God. But today, we know you could be by a concert and you think you're unassuming because there's 10,000 people that no one's going to notice you. But suddenly there's an eye in roya, there's an eye that watches you. The camera zooms in on you and the entire world knows about what you did. And the same is true with people that hear, and of course, all the things we do. But what the Torah is trying to tell us is something much deeper. The reason why you shouldn't do what's wrong is not because there's video cameras watching you, but because God's watching you. Because ultimately, everything you do is noticed by God. And it goes both ways. Sometimes people say, yeah, there's billions of people living in the world, I'm so insignificant, who cares what I do? Does it God make a difference really to God if I wrap my tefillin today, if I keep Shabbos, if I go to services, if I'm kind to my spouse, if I take care of my elderly parents? Who cares? But the answer is yes. And the rabbis told us this 2,000 years ago, that don't do something because you'll be caught on video or because your spouse or someone else will find out. Don't do it because God told you you're not allowed to. And God's always watching. And if someone is cognizant of this, and they won't sin. There's a famous story in the Talmud about one of the great rabbis, and someone came to him. He was devastated that he was sinning. He said, what should I do to stop myself from sinning? And he said, promise me you're never going to lie. Never say a lie. He said, okay. And then every time he wanted to do something, he said, 1 second, what happens if someone asks me? Well, I have to lie? If I have to lie, then I'm not going to do it. So, firstly, don't be gleeful and joyful in someone else's failure. That's a terrible thing. You could take a lesson from it to be more honest, to be more ethical, to be more faithful. We can learn how to behave. But don't be joyful when someone else falls. That's not the way of Judaism. And definitely don't insult people publicly and hurting families. But more importantly, remember that God watches and sees everything we do. And it behooves us to act in ways that will make God proud, our families proud, our community proud, and Am Yisrael proud. Have a great day.